first I'm going to do a little introduction on the materials that I use, that you can also use. And then we'll go on to some basic knots and designs in macrame. Now, as I've seen, a few people have also done macrame earlier. Now, probably all of us would have done, because, you know, friendship bands are something that we all do when we are in school. So that's usually the first introduction all of us have to macrame. So macrame is nothing but the way we are weaving in those knots, the way we are making those knots and creating those intrinsic pieces of art with the yarn or cord that we have. Now, whenever I'm speaking of the material that we use for the macrame, now macrame, when you speak of macrame, it is not the object that you're making, it is the way you're working your cords. Okay, the way of tying the cords, that is called macrame. So depending on what you're making, depending on what project you're doing, the purpose of that project, what you're going to use it for, you choose different materials to make your product, right? So if you see the materials that are used in project, that range is quite big. You can use anything from plastic to cotton to nylon to rope, coir, jute. There are a lot of things that you can use. I normally use cotton-based products, but there are sometimes where I have used jute also. But it depends on person to person. But current trend, the last few years, last 3-4 years, these cotton cords have become very popular. Now, is anybody having an issue with the video? Is it clear? Okay. So when I speak of the material that I use to work the knots, I will call these as cord. Now, as I'm mentioning the terms, I will also be typing in the word in the chat box so you can have a look. So when I'm speaking of whatever material I'm using for the project, I speak of it as cord. I do not call it a thread. I do not call it a rope. I do not call it a wire or anything else. I will call it as a cord. Now, depending on what we are making, there are a lot of different materials we make, different thicknesses, and the way these cords are made also differs. So the look you get is different, the texture you get is different when you're using different types of cords. Now, for example, I have here 2 types of cotton-based cords that I've used to make a project. So if I see the difference, this is one type of cord and this is the other. For some reason, just give me a minute. I don't know why I feel there's an issue with my video. Yogita, is my video clear?
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Okay, great. So you get different looks depending on what material you are using. This is one type of cord that I'm using, and this is another. So the stitches that have been worked are the same, but the look differs. The thickness and the flexibility differs in different cords. So when we speak of the cords, now there are, as I said, there's plastic, there's rope, there's jute, there's coir, there's cotton base, there's nylon base. So if I go in for nylon base cord, I get these locally. Now this cord has the strands all woven into each other. So if you can see, this is a nylon based cord and all these strands are all interwoven together to form a braid. And that is something that I get locally. Okay, when you go to buy for macrame cord, you get these cords also. So these also you can use, but there's advantages to using it and disadvantage to using this type of cord also. So I use this very rarely. The other type of cord which I generally use and which has come into prominence for the last few years is this cotton type of cord that I was telling you about. Now, these are 2 types of cords that I have. And just to show you the difference, now this is a twisted strand cord. If you can see the twist all around, all the segments are twisted into, all the segments here are twisted into 3 or 4 sections which are again twisted to form these cords. Okay, when you open up, you will see the segments separating out. So this particular one has 4 segments in it. So each strand, like there are about, I think 15-20 strands in one segment, and then 4 segments all twisted together to form one cord. This is one type of cord. This is the other one wherein all the segments are just twisted together in one lot, and there's no particular sequence to it. So this is the stranded cord. Now there are different thicknesses, different colors, different shades available in your cords. I won't go into too much of a detail of choosing the cord for your project, whether you want to use a twisted cord, you want to use a stranded cord, you want to use a different material. That all depends on what your project you're doing and why you're doing it. So the purpose also differs, so you have to choose it accordingly. Then coming to the thickness, there are different, as I said, there are different thicknesses. For today's class, I have this in 3 mm and I have this in 1 mm. Okay, so these 2 cords are there, and this is what the thickness differs. Now again, as I said, for some looks you need thicker cords, for some you need thinner cords. Now I have wall hangings and bags made out of 6 to 8 mm cords also, and I have bags made out of these also, the smaller ones. But depending on what you want to achieve, you change. So all this in more detail, we do it later. But right now for this session, you have to know that there are 3 types of cords in the cotton and nylon versions, where you have the twisted cords, the stranded cords, and the braided cords. Apart from that, you have other materials like plastic wires, coir, jute that you can also use, but more commonly the cotton-based wire cords are used. Now coming to this session, what we're going to do is we're going to start with some basic knots. And the first knot that I'm going to now today, I'm going to continue on my projects that I'm doing right now, or those that I have started in my masterclass. But the initial beginner's knot I'm going to show you on this dowel. Okay, now this is a wooden stick that we use in macrame projects. Again, as I said, the name in the chat box. So the first knot that I'm going to do is the basic knot that we need for the project. And then the second one is the reverse of that. And it also is used to start a lot of projects. Okay, so these 2 knots are a part of the same knot, just the way of doing it changes. But to start with, we are going for this workshop today, I'm going to use cords of say about 1 meter length, and I have doubled them up. So I have about 5-6 cords here. So you can start with 6 or 8 cords. So take 8 cords of 1 meter length and start your practice work. So I already have this cut up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these cords, the meter length cords, and fold them in half. So when I fold them in half, I have this loop here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this over this double here and pull it from the bottom, and then tuck in these 2 ends into that loop and pull it. Now, almost all my workshops, I start with this knot because this is something which is the basic knot which every project will start, except for 1 or 2 projects where you're doing something else, but the others, everywhere you're going to start with this knot. So again, to repeat it, the first knot that we are going to do is the lark's head knot. To do the lark's head knot, we're going to put it over the top. First, we're folding the cord in half, putting the loop over the top, pulling it from the bottom, and pulling these 2 ends through that. So when you do your lark's head knot, this is the look that you're going to get. 2 loops on the dowel plus a horizontal loop. Okay, so this is this lark's head knot. Now, as I said, I'll also show you the reverse lark's head knot, which is nothing but the lark's head knot on the reverse side. Okay, so you can either do your lark's head knot and then reverse your workstation and proceed, or you can make your knots with the reverse side itself. So for that, you're going to do the same thing, but in reverse. So you're doubling up your cord, folding it in half, and you're putting it from the bottom now. Okay, the first one we did it over the top. This one is going from the bottom, pulling it over the top here, tucking in those two ends through that and pulling it. Okay, so this is the reverse larkset knot. We are doing the same thing, but in reverse. Okay, so for some projects, this side will count as the correct side. There are some projects where I would say about 1 or 2% of projects that I do that I start with the reverse larkset knot. Most of my projects will start with the larkset knot. So again, from the bottom, pulling it over the top and putting it into the loop and proceeding with the knot. So here we have the reverse larkset knot. When you see the reverse larkset knot, you will see those two loops over the dowel and these two cords coming from the center. Very easy to recognize and very easy to do. This is very simple knot. And here it is how it's going to look. So why I start my project with the larkset knot? If I closely show you this work area. Now, if you have something starting like this, it looks very symmetrical. Okay. But at the same time, if you see this, I don't know, I never, get the urge to start my wall hangings or bigger projects from this side. It doesn't look to me to be complete, but there are artists who use the reverse larkset knot every time to start their projects. So there is no hard and set fast rule as to which side you can start on. Both are equally good. So for the first knot, now just a quick check to see how many of you have got the larkset knot. Everybody got it? How to do the larkset in the reverse larkset knot? In the chat box, yes for if you've got it, or if you want me to repeat it. Quickly, guys. Great. It's a very easy knot, the most basic knot. Now, what we are going to do is we're going to start with a square knot. Then I'll show you how to do. Now, I'm not going to do my square knot on this piece. Okay, I'm going to do it on a piece that I'm already making. So that it's easier for you all to see. Okay, now this has been done. Let me just start with this itself. So what I do is I stabilize my work onto my surface. Okay, any surface you can use. I normally use a working stand where I work. So it's a clothes stand that I use. Something like a clothes stand, not exactly the clothes stand, but something specially made for macrame. Otherwise, smaller projects, I also work on the table like this. So what we are going to use is any kind of a tape and stabilize your work to the table. Okay, just so that it doesn't move. So when we are doing this, I'm going to use these two cords and these two set cords here. So they are like two sets of cords. So giving me total of 4 cords. Sorry, 2 cords doubled up, giving me 4 cords to start my work. And this is called a set of cords. So when we start our square knot, it's a very simple knot again, where you use these 4 knots, 4 cords and start like this. Now what you do is the center 2 cords you're placing in the center and the cords on the side are the working cords. So these 2 are the lead cords and these 2 are the work. I start most of my projects, you can start from either side, but for me, usually I start from the left side. So I have the left cord. Now, if I don't have these cords stabilized, like I've been using this for a lot of my workshops and for practice and other things. So they open up. Okay. So one of the quick tips that we use is to, fasten it on the ends so that it doesn't mess up. But usually because I'm using smaller lengths of leftover cord, sometimes I don't do that, but it helps. Anyways, we don't want the cords to open up because they spoil the work. So to start the knot right now, we are using this cord in the shape of a letter 4 over the middle two cords. And then we are using we are using the right cord in the shape of a reverse letter 4 and placing it over this cord here on the table. Okay, so this cord is at the bottom, this cord comes over the top, and this end goes below these two cords and then into the loop. Now, basically what this is doing is, and you're pulling it, when you're doing this, these two cords form a circle through which these two cords are passing. And that is what anchors them in place. So you gradually pull on your two side cords and stabilize your center cord. And this is the step 1 of your square knot. Coming to the step 2, it's worked in this reverse order. How do you start it? You start it the same way, but from the other side. So we are starting this from the left side, from the right side now, and with a reverse letter 4. So when you have this, yes, Harika, I'll repeat all the steps at least 3-4 times. All this knots 3-4 times. Don't worry about it. So this is the first square knot and the second step of the first square knot. So we have this cord in the reverse letter 4, where here it is over these two cords and flat on the table. Then you pick up the left cord, put it over this cord here and in the shape of a letter 4. So when you do that, this particular cord here in my hand, it will go below these two cords. Okay. And then into the loop. And then you pull it up again. And when you do that, you maintain your tension on these two cords, and then you pull it. Okay. When you do that, you have your square knot. So when you see your square knot, it's basically two cords here in the shape of a V with a vertical strand there. This is your square knot. So if you see in any work, just by looking at the work, you can make out how many square knots are there. So here, each one is a square knot, and it's been done in the same way. Okay. To repeat the square knot that we have done, we'll just go and do it once more. We'll use the two cords here now. Okay. Same thing, middle two cords, I'm placing them on the work table as my lead cords. The side cords are the working cords. I start with the left cord first, place it in the shape of a 4. When I do that, this cord is coming over the center two cords, and then it is flat on the table. And the right cord is going over this cord here, and then in the shape of a reverse letter 4, but in the bottom of the two cords. So at the bottom of the two cords, it's going there, and then we are pulling it into the loop here. And we are gradually tightening it up. This is the step 1 of the square knot. So to remind everyone, this is not the complete square knot. This is just step 1 of the square knot. Then we come to the step 2. Step 2, now we do it in the reverse order. So we are going to start from the right side. First, we started from the left side. Now we're going to start from the right side. To start from the right side, again, we put it in the shape of a letter 4. This is coming over the middle two cords and flat on the table here. And the left cord is going over this cord here and then under these two cords. So every time you have to remember, and coming into the loop here. So every time you have to remember, whenever you're doing this cord, you're going to form this circle, crisscross and form this circle around these two cords. And when you pull that, that will give you your square knot. Okay. So to avoid any more confusion, I will repeat it again once more. And this time I am taking the two cords from this knot and two from this knot and using them as a set. Okay. So again, repeating the same thing, making a 4 with this cord. Here it is over these two cords, flat on the table here. The right cord is over this part here, and then it goes below these two cords and then into the loop. Okay, if your technique of working your chords is very good, if it is correct, you will not have any difficulty in your project. So getting to know how to do it correctly, maintaining uniform tension is also very important. Then we come to the next step of the square knot. So next step, we are doing the same thing. We are taking it in the reverse order with the reverse four, starting from the right side, over the middle two chords and flat on the table. Then taking your left chord over this particular chord here and under these two chords, and then into the loop. Okay, very simply put, this will give you your square knot. And every time, if you see, I'm maintaining my tension. I don't want any gaps between the square knots. So just maintaining that tension will also help. Now, everybody's tension differs. So if you're starting, maybe watching a tutorial, maybe somebody's told you over the phone, do so many square knots and take so much of length. But at the end of it, you still may have excess cord left. You may have less cord in your project. It just doesn't mean that the calculations are wrong, or definitely that can be one issue. The other issue can be the difference in the tension that you guys are using. So don't expect every time you follow somebody or somebody says how you do it and you get a different project. It just doesn't work that way. Everybody's way of working is different. If any one of you knits or crochets, you know, everybody has a different tension when you're making your projects. Same thing applies here. Somebody will be having a tight tension, somebody will be having a loose tension. But if you know the basics, if you know the basic working of your knots, if you know how to measure your chords for your projects, if you know how to measure how many chords you're going to take for any size, few basic things, if you know, you can work your whole project without any help from anybody. You can pick up a picture out of the internet and say, I'm going to make something like this. And you can make it without anybody's help. So you need to have your basics strong. Okay. So if you see here, I have the same thing done. But what I'm going to do once, okay, I have just completed this one. So completing one more round here. Okay. So I hope everybody's got the square knot easily. Anybody wants me to repeat it, R in the chat box will definitely let me know. Okay, I think everybody's got it. So I'll just leave it for now and we'll go on to the next knot that I want to do, which is the double half hitch. Now, this is one knot that I really enjoy working with because just one knot will give me a lot of shapes there. So for example, this particular section here is made from the double half hitch. Okay, so this is where I'm going to demonstrate my work for you today. Now, again, if you see, I have this whole project done in square knots, but purpose is something totally different. It's a part of a larger project. So this particular project I'm doing in many sections. So this is just one half of it. So quickly, to start with a double half hitch knot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take sections now. Okay. So each part I'm going to take it as if it is one whole piece of work that I'm doing. So for this particular one, this is the section that I'm going to use. Okay, so when I want to use, now if I want to take my diagonal going like this, I will use the first chord here and then use it. Now this will be my lead chord. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the lead chord here. And these will be my working chords. So whichever direction I want to hold my chord in, I'm going to take that chord, the lead chord, and hold it in that position, and the working chords will be doing the work around it. So here I have my working chord, which is the first chord, put it over the top here, and then pull it from the bottom. Okay, that will give me the first half of the double half hitch. Quickly writing the name. Is this color visible on the camera? Otherwise, I will do it with the white one, because for me, I don't know. Anybody in the chat box, if it is clear or you want me to do with white? If you want me to do with white, let me know with white. I'll start with white, because white is usually better seen. Anybody? Guys, nobody's replying, so I don't know. Okay, great. So it's visible. So we have this done. Now this is the first half of the double half hitch. So to do the second one, same thing repeated again. So over the top, into the bottom, and pull it. And that is actually my half hitch, but for me, I don't think it looks as visible in this particular color. So just let me let it put it aside, because I want it to be very clear on screen. Okay, in that it is not showing up. You cannot see the different sections of the chords, and that doesn't help. So again, stabilize my work and start. So as I said, I'm going to take 2 halves of this and starting. Now I want my diagonal section to go like this. So I'm going to use this particular double half hitch and use this chord as my lead chord. Okay. When I do that, all these other chords will be my working chords, and I'll start from the first one here and then end it till here. This will be the direction of my diagonal. So I take the first chord, put it over the top and pull it from the center. This is my half hitch. Okay. This single loop over the chord. I repeat that section and put it over the loop, over the lead chord, and pull it from the loop. And this gives me my double half hitch. If you see the double half hitch, this is how it is going to look. Okay. Two loops of the chord on the lead chord plus a single chord coming out of the center. So this is my double half hitch knot. And this time it's leaning towards the left as I go along. So if you see this chord, I am not moving at all. The maximum movement will be up and down, up and down. It will not move right or left. That is very important. You have to maintain your position. So first half hitch done, putting it over the top into the loop and pulling it. Second hitch done. So this is a double half hitch now. So the first half hitch done here, then doing it again, and this is my double half hitch. I have to maintain the tension on the chords that I'm using. So both the chords, the one that I'm working with and the one that I'm holding, both the tensions I have to be careful about. And I keep repeating that with all the chords. So the next chord again over the top, into the loop and pull. This is the half hitch. Then repeat it again over the top, into the loop and pull. This is the double half hitch. Again, the same thing. Just be sure that your chords don't twist over each other. That sequence doesn't change. Otherwise, there'll be differences. So just be careful of that and keep working. Over the top, into the loop and pull. Over the top, into the loop and pull. The same thing I keep repeating as I'm going along. Now, there are a lot of designs you can do with this, especially if you're using different colors. You can do circular patterns, you can do round, you can do Celtic knots, you can do a lot of designs with this one single pattern. No wonder it's my favorite, but it looks a little different. The calculation of the chords required for this also is a little bit different compared to the other knots. But it is a beautiful way of working wavy patterns into your project. Okay, so right now we've gone with a straight diagonal. Okay, this is how my diagonal will look now. So if I'm doing something like square or diamond shapes, if I'm doing something like leaves or flowers in my pattern, then this is the knot that will help me do that. Everybody clear about this, or would you like any more help with this? In the chat box, please. Great. Okay, the same double half hitch can be worked in a lot of, uh, I would say, directions. One is this one. The other one, you can work it like this. You can work horizontal, you can work vertical, you can work circular patterns, you can work leaf shapes, lots of shapes that you can make just using this particular pattern. Okay, so just to repeat once more, so all of you can uh, you know just see how this works again, doing the same diagonal but with the next section. So now I'm taking the next cord here over on the outside and following it along the same direction. So over the top into the loop and through that, pull it. The same thing I am repeating again, over the top into the loop and pulling it. So again, I have my double half hitch. Then again with the next cord, now I am going sequentially. So from right to the left, all the cords will be used to do this particular knot. So next cord over the top into the loop and pulling it. Then the same thing over the top into the loop and pulling it. I keep repeating that. And because everybody has got it, I just want to quickly do it over to show you how it looks when put together. I've made some beautiful mandala designs with just this knot there. Okay, no other knot. Comes out really beautiful. If you're doing it correctly, if you're using the right amount of cord, if you're using the right amount of tension. If you have a looser tension, you will get gaps between your lines. If you have too tight a tension, the project will start to bulge. So there's a lot of things to do. If you see here, I'm just keeping enough tension. I'm not pulling it too tight or too loose. So my lines are all parallel and they look quite good. So with the last cord also, I'm going to do the same thing. And there you have both the lines parallel, no gap at all, and looking very symmetrical. Okay, so you can imagine just with this one single knot, I can do entire design just by working it in different directions. So I hope that's there. I'll just take a break for a few minutes. And if anybody wants me to answer any questions, you can all just unmute yourself and let me know. Anything that we've done today, anything regarding the material, knots, you want me to repeat the knots, anything?
Ma'am,
Yes.
yeah, so I see this material, is this cotton thread?
Yes, this is cotton.
Then generally cotton thread means they'll give this very thin one, no? For,
No,
if I
this
go
is
outside.
macrame cord. When you go to buy it, you ask for macrame cord. Locally, what you get is something that I've already shown to you, the same thing that I've shown. This is what
Yeah,
normally, because in Delhi also, I know when I go buy in Delhi, when I ask for macrame cord, this is the cord that I get. If you go to Sarojini Nagar, I get this cord.
okay.
Okay, so I've never gone to the Sadar Bazaar as such, but there also they have a lot of variety. I've not gone for this, but I've gone for my chocolate and soap making supplies. But for macrame, I've never gone. But I know friends of mine who do get from Sadar Bazaar, and there's a lot of varieties
I'm
available. But
staying in West Bengal, so I have no idea about the
okay,
Delhi.
okay. West Bengal, I don't have any idea, but the suppliers that I have, they are situated in Mumbai and Ahmedabad and Gujarat. but they do supply to all places all over India. For me personally, locally, I stay in Bhopal. If I go to buy macrame cord, this is the same cord that I get.
Okay.
And although it has its definitely has its uses, but I do not prefer the look the colors give in this
It
particular cord.
shines.
It shines too much. So if you have colors like red and yellow, they look very gaudy. Okay, so off-white and lavender, these a couple of colors are there that you can use and they don't look gaudy. But the other colors, they look very, very shiny and very, very gaudy, and I don't really like the look. So I personally order from suppliers online, and these are the suppliers that I have shortlisted over the last 6-8 years minimum. Okay, over all these years I have shortlisted a few suppliers and I have been buying from them, and they keep all the macrame supplies. So these cords, I get it from them. They have different sizes, they have different quality, they have different colors, they have the other accessories also. So I find it very easy, and I'm because I am buying from them for so long, they're giving me the best rates they can. So definitely that that focus shifts onto my students when I'm teaching these guys also. I'll be sharing the list once people register. So with the registered students, I share the list of suppliers, and these suppliers are giving them discounts, my registered students discounts ranging from 5 to 15%. So that also definitely helps when you're starting a business, right? You're saving on the materials. Then when you learn properly, when you learn how to measure your projects, you're saving on the cord itself, because you know how much cord to take. You are not just blindly following somebody and using up extra cord, right? So all these things helps. But normally you if you ask for macrame supplies, maybe you'll have to search a little. I'm really not sure in Bengal, but definitely if you have an art and craft shop, you should be able to get it. But otherwise online there are a lot of suppliers. Also, if you are not able to access these cords, jute is an excellent option. I think jute ropes you can get
Yeah,
everywhere. You
easily
can practice
served.
on that. That also is an excellent option if you want to just practice, if you're not going in for a
I
large
couldn't
scale.
find anything and I was trying to use the synthetic rope, but it's still
It
not
doesn't
working.
work.
It's
Now,
not working.
the issue with plastic is when you when you're starting your projects, when you're ending your cords, you literally have to burn them with fire at the ends and fuse them every time.
Yeah, and
That
even if
sometimes,
it's not getting fixed tightly.
yes, that gives you a little ungainly spots in your projects, and it's quite messy, in fact.
Yeah, it's too
So
messy.
my personal favorite definitely anytime are these cotton strands. So these two types, especially the one that I'm actually working on, this is the stranded one, and this is the twisted one. So these two are my favorites. I have them in so many sizes. Um 1 mm, 3 mm, 4 mm, 6 mm, 10 mm, especially the off-white color. Off-white is what I use most, but I have other colors also because I make a lot of stuff. So, if you're starting, go with off-white any day. Start with just one color. As you progress, increase your range. As you progress, you'll get to know which thickness you prefer. Okay, when initially I started with one thickness, and then I found out that I don't like that thickness just because everybody is doing it with that one. I don't like the look. I shifted down to a thickness less. So I came down a few millimeters, and that is what I prefer for my projects.
So for beginners, it would be preferable as 1 mm or 3 mm, I guess. Alright.
Sorry.
For beginners, what is preferable?
See, in macrame, we use from 1 to 12 mm anywhere. Okay. But depending, as I said, depending on what you're trying to make, the look, what you're like, if you're making earrings, keychains, and all, you're going with a smaller size. But I've made earrings with bigger, like the 4 mm cords also, and they look nice. Okay, it just depends, it's a bigger discussion to be done
Okay.
about what material, what sizes, what quality, and all. Today in
So,
this session, I've
for
given a
me,
very
as a
brief.
beginner to buy something, what would be the preferable? That's what I for
For
many.
beginners, I don't
For
generally
a
give
wall
a
hanging,
range.
for example, for a wall hanging, not an earring.
See, I don't give an exact range because of the same reason, because personal preferences change.
Okay,
You have
thank
to
you.
know the look, but anyway, from 1 to 7 is okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, only when you're working will you get to know which is your better one, which one your knots are coming out good. Okay, so and depending on your projects, again, for some of my projects specifically, I use smaller size cords. For some, I use bigger size cords. There's a lot of discussion just for the materials. You need 1 hour, 2 hours at least just for the discussion on materials.
Okay, okay. Right
Okay,
now, this
so
answer is really
yeah.
okay.
So anything else in the knots or anything else you want to ask?
No, it was very clear. I
Great,
understood.
great, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'm still here in the session if you guys do need to ask me anything. In the meantime, I'll just give over to Yogita for a few minutes.